What would you do if a single spark could burn your entire world to ashes? In the quiet of our rural Nebraska town, where the horizon stretches endlessly and the only sounds are the rustle of cornfields and the occasional low of cattle, that question became all too real. My name is Clara, and this is the story of how one reckless act by a woman named Karen unraveled lives, exposed buried secrets, and left us all picking up the pieces of a tragedy none of us saw coming. It was late September, the air crisp with the promise of autumn. Our family farm, a sprawling 200 acres passed down through 3 generations, was my sanctuary. My husband, Daniel, and I had poured our hearts into ivory barn beam. Every fence post, every blade of grass was a testament to our love for this land. Our 2 kids, Ellie and Sam, grew up running through those fields, their laughter echoing against the silos. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours, steady and predictable, until Karen moved in next door. Karen was new to Willow Creek, a city transplant with a loud laugh and a penchant for stirring up trouble. She bought the old Miller place, a rundown farmhouse a quarter-mile from our barn. From the start, she was a whirlwind, always hosting parties, blasting music, and driving her shiny red SUV too fast down our gravel road. She'd wave at us with a smile that felt more like a challenge than a greeting. Daniel called her trouble in high heels, but I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was just lonely, I thought. Maybe she'd settle in. That hope died on a Friday night. It was just after dusk, the sky painted in hues of orange and purple. I was in the kitchen, kneading dough for tomorrow's bread, when Ellie burst through the door, her face pale. "Mom, there's a fire near the barn." My heart stopped. I dropped the dough and ran outside, Daniel and Sam close behind. The acrid smell of smoke hit me first, then the sight of flames licking the dry grass near our barn. The barn, our lifeblood, where we stored hay, equipment, and memories, was in danger. Across the field I saw her, Karen, standing by a makeshift bonfire, laughing with a group of friends, oblivious to the sparks drifting toward our property. The wind was picking up, carrying embers dangerously close to the barn's wooden walls. I sprinted toward her, shouting, "Karen, put it out. The fire's spreading." She turned, her expression shifting from amusement to annoyance. "Relax, Clara. It's just a little fun," she said, waving a hand dismissively. Her friends snickered, passing around bottles of beer. Daniel was already grabbing a hose, yelling at Sam to call 911. I pleaded with Karen again, my voice hoarse. "The wind's too strong. It's going to catch the barn." She rolled her eyes, muttering something about uptight farmers, and tossed another log onto the fire. That's when I saw Ida spark landed on a pile of dry leaves near our fence. It flared up instantly, a small but vicious flame racing toward the barn. Panic seized me. I ran back to help Daniel, who was spraying water as fast as he could. The flames were spreading, licking at the barn's base. Sirens wailed in the distance, but they felt too far away. Our neighbors, the Thompsons, arrived with buckets, joining the fight. By the time the fire truck pulled up, the barn was engulfed. We could only watch as the structure groaned, its beams collapsing in a shower of sparks. Everything, our tools, our winter hay, our kids' old toys stored in the loft, gone. The cops arrived shortly after, their lights casting an eerie glow over the chaos. Karen was still there, her bonfire now a smoldering pile, her friends long gone. She was shouting at the officers, insisting it was an accident, that we were overreacting. But the evidence was clear. Her fire, her negligence, her refusal to listen. They cuffed her and hauled her off, her protests echoing into the night. The next morning, the damage was laid bare. The barn was a charred skeleton, its loss a gut punch to our finances and our hearts. Insurance would cover some, but not all. We'd have to dip into savings, maybe sell some land. Daniel was stoic, but I could see the weight in his eyes. Ellie and Sam were devastated, their childhood memories reduced to ash. I felt rage, grief, and a strange numbness all at once. But then came the twist, the one we never expected. A week later, as we sifted through the wreckage, a man named Tom showed up at our doorstep. He was in his 50s, weathered, with a quiet demeanor that didn't match the intensity in his eyes. "I heard about the fire," he said, his voice low. "I need to tell you something about Karen." We invited him in, curious but wary. Tom wasn't a local. He'd driven 3 hours from Omaha. He claimed to be Karen's ex-husband. "She's done this before," he said, his hands trembling as he gripped a cup of coffee. "Not a barn, but a shed. Back when we were married. She set a fire to clear some brush," she said. "It got out of control, burned half our neighbor's yard. She never took responsibility, always blamed someone else." He paused, his gaze distant. "I left her because of it. Not just the fire, but the way she twisted everything, made herself the victim. I thought she'd changed, but when I heard about your barn I had to come." His words hit like a thunderbolt. Karen wasn't just reckless, she had a history. Tom's story shifted my perspective. I'd been angry, but now I saw her differently. Not just a careless neighbor, but someone who thrived on chaos, who refused to learn. Tom left us his number, saying he'd testify if we needed him. His unexpected arrival gave us a strange sense of validation, but it also deepened the tragedy. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a pattern. The legal battle was swift but brutal. Karen's lawyer argued she didn't mean harm, that the wind was unpredictable. But Tom's testimony, combined with statements from the Thompsons and the fire chief's report, painted a damning picture. The judge was merciless. Karen was fined $180,000 for damages, negligence, and endangering lives. She'd have to sell her house to pay it. Part of me felt vindicated, but another part felt hollow. No fine could rebuild our barn, our memories, or our trust in the world. As weeks turned to months, the community rallied around us. The Thompsons organized a fundraiser, and neighbors donated tools and hay. We began rebuilding plank by plank, but the scars remained. Ellie stopped running through the fields, her laughter replaced by a quiet sadness. Sam threw himself into farm work, but I could see the anger in his clenched fists. Daniel and I argued more, the stress fracturing our once solid bond. Then came the final blow, the one that broke my heart. One evening, as I was sorting through old photos in the attic, I found a letter tucked inside a book. It was from my mother, written years ago before she passed. She'd warned me about holding on to anger, about how it could poison even the strongest soul. "Forgive, Clara," she wrote. "Not for them, but for you." I sat there, tears streaming down my face, realizing I'd been consumed by rage toward Karen. It wasn't just her fire that had burned, it was my inability to let go. I drove to the county jail, where Karen was serving a short sentence for violating probation. She'd skipped a court date. I don't know what I expected, maybe an apology, maybe closure. She looked smaller behind the glass, her defiance gone. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I just wanted to feel alive." For the first time, I saw her not as a villain, but as a broken person, trapped by her own recklessness. I didn't forgive her, not fully, but I felt something shift inside me. The weight of my anger lightened, just a fraction. Driving home, I passed the new barn, its fresh timbers glowing in the moonlight. It wasn't the same, and neither were we. The fire had taken more than wood and hay. It had exposed our fragility, our flaws, our humanity. Karen's fine would help us rebuild, but the real cost, the trust, the joy, the peace, could never be repaid. I thought of my mother's letter, of Tom's haunted eyes, of Karen's whispered confession. We were all bound by this tragedy, each carrying our own piece of the ash. As I pulled into the driveway, Daniel was waiting, his silhouette framed against the porch light. He didn't ask where I'd been. He just took my hand, and for the first time in months, we stood together in silence, watching the stars. The world hadn't ended, but it had changed. And somehow we'd have to find a way to keep going.